Good morning, beautiful. It's great to see you. It's good to be out here live on my back lawn. It's a beautiful morning. And today, if you don't see this at the normal time, it's because my shearing magic is away for the night. And I decided not to stand on my head and try to, do it all myself. It's like, no, I'm just going to trust that everybody who wants to see this and who needs to see this will see this at exactly the right time. But if you wish to help, please do share this live out to the groups that you frequent live, if that's where I normally am, because that will really be helpful. Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Holly. Good morning, Robin. Good morning, Stephanie. Welcome to me on my back lawn, not having the shearing magic happen the normal way. It's going to happen a different way today, and I'll do it afterwards. But I decided I wasn't going to stand on my head. So let me show you the day. This is the day. This day is really blurry. The camera's got confused. How's that? That's better. After all, there's not a lot to focus on in blue sky. Good morning, Andrew. Welcome to my back garden. There's the sun. It hasn't hit the back garden yet. It means that what we can see of the flowers is better. So this is the Euryops daisy. I looked up and there it is. It's bright yellow in the middle of, well, autumn. Winter doesn't start officially until June, so, autumn, fall, however you call it, that's what we're doing. And I will prune it this time after it's finished flowering. It seems to get to flower twice and then I have to cut it off. Okay, so that's the Euryops. The other thing I can show you, just walking carefully here, up the stairs. I can't show you these properly, but you can see there are flowers. They're bright pink. These are like peppermint twists when they're closed. They only open in full sun. And they are bright hot pink inside, and this is a kind of oxalis, which people who know what an oxalis is, it's a pesty thing, which is why this is in a pot. It's a bulb, but it's so pretty. And look at this, the dragon's gold corphi is really like a heap of gold. It's just covered in flowers. So we have this little corner of yellow in the garden at this time of the year because nothing much is happening, and this will soon turn yellow. Because this is an acacia, and that's going to flower. So this is the little hot spot of colour, and everything else is, doing its going to sleep thing. Let me just walk down here. See if there's anything else to show you in terms of flowers. We do have some of the faithful purple campanula that's doing its thing, and you can see through the lemon tree because I pruned it. Really needed a prune, so there it is. Right, and over there, see, we've got coriander flowering in the garden. In fact, I'll go over here. I'll get crud on the bottom of my shoes, but never mind. We have these lovely, I don't know what they're called. I keep calling them nerines, but that's not right. Aren't they gorgeous? And look, narcissus coming up in May. It's insane. But there you go. So spring is coming. And there's another one of those white flowers at the back, but this is the one we can really see. So, let me talk about today's topic. In honesty, in truth, today's topic came because there's a piece of me which, when I allow it, has a certain impatience, which is why I say when I, with my own desire and with other people's desire to just keep revisiting the past. But of course I didn't want this post to be about slapping people in the face for it, because it's in your face and it's happened and it's real and it's become how we define ourselves, right? And literally becomes our identity. So let me go over how that is the case, that our past is our identity. And I mean that quite neurologically and biochemically. So you have a powerful experience, or you have a series of experiences to which you have a repeated emotional reaction, and you're stuck in it, right? Your life is like this now, and you just think it's who you are, but it's not. What happens when you have a powerful or an emotionally charged experience, which is really the same thing, or a series of things that develops an emotional charge, is that the brain says, oh, something's changed inside me, because if you're having an emotion, you're having a chemical experience. Your emotional brain produces chemistry and it flows to your body, and you have feelings which add up to emotions. That's a whole nother discussion about that, but that is actually true. Feelings and emotions are not quite the same. Feelings add up to emotions. So you have that chemistry, and that's the emotion. And the brain makes those chemicals first off because it's stringing together neurons to remember this experience that you're having, either because it's really, really nice or because it's really, really horrible and you want to do your best to avoid it later. And so, in the case of the trauma survivor, g'day She, it's great to see you. This is really relevant because a person goes through a difficult experience. Forgive me, there's a truck backing up there. God, it makes a lot of noise. I think I'm going to go around the front of the house because I find it distracting. They got to have a reversing beacon, but oh my God, it's so noisy. So the person has a traumatic experience or, whatever, and let's say it's a one-off thing and they go to the police. They have to then tell the story again, which fires that same set of neurons in the brain and reproduces the chemistry again. So now the body's having a second experience just like it's now. Because to the body, it doesn't matter what makes the chemistry pour. If the chemistry's the same, the experience is the same, beginning, middle and end. And then the person has an injury, so they have to go to the doctor and they have to explain what happened again. So again, they're re-experiencing it, and they're re-experiencing it as a thing now. And then, they seek justice. And they have to tell the story again, and again, and again. And every single time, it's conditioning the body into the past. And, that just is what happens. It's a fact. And it's very difficult because by the time you've done all of that, you've got a really enriched neural net in your brain about this experience, which has been added to simply because you've told the story again and you've discovered new nuances of what you experienced and all of that. So it's gotten really enriched and your body's become very accustomed to that chemistry because it happens over time, right? And literally now, that enriched neural net, then the brain is saying, well, I've got to look out for all of these things and try to avoid them. So then you notice all this stuff in your environment that reminds you of this, and that further gives you things to react to and have the chemistry and have the experience, and it literally becomes your neurological and biochemical and genetic and energetic and emotional and everything identity. Just the same as me with the stuff that I'm working through with money and lack and all of that. I could really tell the story. I could find all the reasons for why I'm like this. But what I understand now, because of what I've just explained to you, is that if I'm really determined to overcome my past, I have to stop talking about it. It doesn't mean I deny it. It doesn't mean that I don't deal with the physical consequences of whatever it is. But I got to stop talking about it. And as much as possible with life, I got to stop thinking about it. I got to stop thinking those thoughts. I got to stop being that person. Because I think those thoughts and have those same chemicals flowing through my body, I'm going to keep being the same person. I'm going to have the same life. And you've got no idea how real this is to me right now. I'm so much in the middle of change that it's too soon to try to explain it to you. I'm sure I will. But this is the kind of change. It's on that level that I am experiencing at this point in time. So I do know what I'm talking about. We have to stop telling the story. And when we stop telling the story, we've also got to start telling the story inside our heads with the thoughts that we don't even notice we're thinking. And we've got to notice when our body, oh my God, it was doing this yesterday, goes into survival because there's some trigger in the environment that you haven't even really noticed what it is, but suddenly your body's in fear and you're thinking, what the hell? I am here in situation A, which is not even a 1 on the scary scale. Morning, Sunshia! And my body is behaving like it's an 8. What the feck? Really? Body? What are you doing? Oh, hang on a minute. My body's running an automatic program. It thinks it's experiencing what happened the last time, blah, blah, blah. I have to self-regulate, and we talked about that yesterday. So yesterday I did a lot of putting my attention in my heart and breathing because I just had to deal with some stuff. And I recognised that everything was perfect. I had synchronicities. I had car parks turn up in impossible places. Everything flowed. It was so easy. There was no expense. It was so perfect. And yet my body was saying, this is scary, this is awful, this is practically traumatic. But the difference this time was I understood it and I was very determined not to let my body run the show. because my body was on an old program and I don't want to be that person anymore. So, yesterday was really a bit of an initiation, and I'm so proud of me. I passed. I just don't want to go back, and I don't want to be that person anymore. And if I stop being that person, I know, because I see the little things in my life that are changing, and I understand now why they've only been little things. Because I'm really getting into the core grotty stuff that I couldn't even see for looking, and I seriously couldn't see it for looking. Spent some time with a very wise friend last night, and I was, oh my God, that's what it is. And I was still unpacking that's what it is this morning, and I'll be unpacking it for a while, because the state of being that I am choosing to move into and become is so foreign to me that I have no idea what it actually is like. I was in my meditation this morning saying, I don't want to be this. Please show me what it's like to be not that. That was all I could say. I had no idea. Yeah, good memories are fine, Robin. Why is that? Because they mean good chemistry and good feelings and good experiences, and you associate them with more good stuff. Absolutely. Retell the good things. As long as they don't get tinged with the idea of, oh, well, that'll never happen again, or, that was great in the past, but I've got something to look forward to in the future, because we can do that too, the good old days. Well, what about the wonderful days that are coming? So for me, memories are useful in as much as they help me to propel myself forward into the future. But I really am so much more interested in remembering my future than my past. Because even the good memories that I have in my past, I was somebody else then. If I look back at the things that I do remember as good, it was so long ago. I wasn't that person. I don't want to go back to being that me. Now, that's just me. I'm not saying that good memories are bad. It's just that for me, it's better not to do that. It's funny, isn't it? But that's possibly because it was so hard for me to bring up any really happy memories anyway. It's just who I was. Nobody's fault, remember? This was my filters. Yesterday, remember I talked about how our filters, which are on our cells, and about what receptors are there to available to receive the chemicals that give us the feelings and the emotions. My receptors have just been tuned to feeling sad and feeling separate. Basically my entire life. I think I was born that way. I think I came in with this. So, as something to solve and overcome. So, I just, it's like when I'm talking to somebody and they say, oh, well, because of this and it's going to take time. I don't know. There's a bit of me that I have to quell that wants to be frustrated and say, no, it's not because of that. And it doesn't have to take time. The only time it takes is for me to line myself up with what is really who I want to be. And of course, when you don't actually have an idea who that is or how it feels, that's the challenge, right? Is to figure that out. So if we stop firing those neural nets, if we stop even being willing to say the words or think the thoughts or ever look back, just think about this neurologically and chemically for a minute. If you don't use a neurological connection for long enough, it will eventually prune apart. It will not be there. The physical structure in your brain will change if you stop telling the story and stop thinking the thoughts. And of course, if you can't think the thought because the connection isn't there anymore, you're not going to get the chemistry either. And sooner or later, and I've now been knocking on the genetic door of my cells for a while, because my cells have been programmed to sadness and separation basically my entire life. So I can't expect it to change overnight, but it is changing. Sooner or later, if I do that, the identity of my cells is also going to change. And I'm literally becoming a different person. My body is becoming somebody else. I don't have the same receptors. I don't have the same connections in my brain. I'm just not that person anymore. So I just, that's my passion. Oh, for God's sake, stop talking about it. Stop referring back to it. Stop letting it be anything to do with you. And I know, because I've listened to and read a few stories from people who have made significant changes in their lives, there is always a point at which they just either moment to moment, big decision, line in the sand, and I've got one of those, or just step by step by step, and I'm also doing that, saying, I just can't carry on being the person I've been. Enough. And because I understand that literally every time I think the thought, I'm reinforcing that connection, I'm reinforcing the chemistry, I just don't want to do that. And so if I can neurologically and biochemically and epigenetically and energetically and emotionally and in every other way become a different person, it stands to reason that my body should change. Because if the receptors on the cells are different, then you get different things docking into the cells. The cell membrane, people used to think that the DNA was the brain of the cell. No, the cell membrane is the brain of the cell. So if your cell brains are constantly, quote unquote, thinking, receiving, processing sadness and lack and separation like mine have been, well, that's who you are. It gets signaled inside the cell. The signal comes to the chemistry comes to the receptor. It fires up the receptor into the cell and makes DNA replicate a protein, and out it comes in a way, your body's made up of proteins. So it's very directly related to how we think and feel all the time, most commonly, ordinarily. That's who we are. And if I change my habitual state of being to the point that my cells have a different brain, well, I've become somebody else. And this actually is how people heal their bodies, through thought alone, to quote Dr. Joe Dispenza. That's actually how it works. It's not easy. It takes time. It takes effort. But really fundamentally, one of the key aspects of this is that you have to reinvent yourself. And, I'm so grateful I understand this now, that it begins and ends with how we choose to think and how we choose to feel. But if we make that change and simply refuse to stop being who we've been, and that requires totally learning from it and overcoming and saying, no, I don't want to think that thought anymore. No, the next second, I don't want to think that thought anymore. Shit, what was the thought I wanted to think? There it is. Oh shit, I'm thinking that other one again. That was what it was like. And I know I'll have days like that again, because I've got to change my mind, right? I've got to change the receptors on my cells. I've got to change the brains of my cells, and I have to do it by thinking and feeling as the person I want to be for long enough that the cells go from triangles to squares, to use that wonderful metaphor which just flew into my head when I was trying to explain it the other day. That's overcoming to me. That is just what I'm actually doing, and I was so aware of it. Again, this morning in my meditation, I was reaching, and it felt like reaching, not reaching with my arm, but reaching with my heart, for a feeling that I could kind of feel on the very edge of my awareness. And it was there, but not there. It was like, I can feel it, I can't feel it, can't feel it, can't. It was a real, razor's edge. And it came to me that it's like, there's one receptor on my cells for that feeling and 20 for the other one. And my cells are saying, give me triangles. I'm used to triangles. But this is a square. And I kept tuning into it and, putting my attention on it and feeling what it might be feeling, trying to train my body to feel that feeling. And I kept doing it, and it did actually get easier. I actually started to feel the feeling. Not strongly, not intensely, but genuinely, if that makes sense. I know it was actually resonating there. And this is a very unknown self. I have never been this self. The places I'm going in me is like, I don't know what that is. But I know I'm going there because I don't want to continue to be who I've been. And by the way, my body is healing. And I don't have any objective blood test results or anything to tell me that. I just know. I just really know. And that's another of the things that happens with people who are healing their bodies by thought alone, is you come to a point where you just know. My brain is still kind of arguing with me about it, but I just know. And there are things I'm seeing that are changing, but the things that I can't see, I just know. I just know. I just know that I know that I know. Because the me that created those imbalances in my body that manifest as whatever those problems were, doesn't exist anymore. I can remember her. I'm grateful to her for getting me here, but she doesn't exist anymore. So it's a powerful thing, and it takes an enormous amount of awareness, because you've got to pay attention, and it takes a huge amount of determination to just draw a line in the sand and say, enough, I'm just not going to tell that story anymore. No. And some days you feel like you're losing your mind, because you are, and you need to. No. This, remember? This. No. This. I know what it's like. It's really worth the effort. So, that's what I want to say. We have to deal with life. We have to do what we know is right. We have to take the path that seems appropriate to us. But when you don't need to think about those things, when somebody starts to say, oh, how's it going? Say, oh, it's fine. I don't want to talk about it. Not because I hate you or don't appreciate your support, but I simply don't want to talk about it because it brings it all up again. I don't want to do that. Minimize it as much as you can. Just don't go there unless you practically need to. Don't be that person. Don't let it be your identity anymore. Put more energy into who you want to be. That's a huge choice. It's a really big decision. And you have to make it over and over and over, because remember, the body is really used to triangles. And you are saying, I want you to do squares now. And it's saying, I changed my receptors for you. What are you on about? So that's the conversation we're having. So, I know I'm done. It's Thursday. Thank you so much for sharing with me. Please remember to ask me your questions, because I love answering your questions. It's a joy to me when I receive them. And, I think I'm done. Big love. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.